Celtic foot, I don't think is a human foot. I don't know what they drew with this one. It looks like anything goes with the Celtic foot. I had to pick a foot. Okay, maybe I'll just look. I'm gonna look privately. Like, I'm not gonna put the camera on. I'm just gonna look, assuming you need to stand totally straight. Hi, it's great to see you again. I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And I did a video a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a couple months ago, I don't know. This year is flown by. I think it was during the summer, but it was about shovel teeth. 10 years ago, I went to a new dentist here in Nashville and went through the whole routine, had 0 cavities, which was awesome. But he told me just in passing that I had shovel teeth. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, you have shovel teeth. And I didn't really get any more information than that. And something that an old dentist told me when he saw my teeth. He told me I had shovel teeth and sent me kind of just down a rabbit hole of that. And I'd love to share that video with you. I'll link to it below, or you can just type it in on my page. It got me thinking about the way that sometimes we can turn to physical traits to try to like unpack our ancestry or our heritage. And there's other ones. There's other ones. You know, there's the teeth one, the one we're going to talk about today, the feet. And so I saw this thing online, and I'll put it up on the screen. But it's basically ancestry by your foot and toe shapes. And I was like, what is this? And then immediately I was like, well, I need to check my feet. So I want to tell you what they are. And I want to walk through this, whether or not this really works, and just kind of my thoughts on this. So let me know first if you've ever seen this thing. So the first one is Egyptian. I saw that this was supposed to be one of the most beautiful feet shapes. I don't have it. I wish that I did. And it's just like a 45-degree angle, kind of like stair steps going down. If you go across, calling this Orient feels wrong, but that's what it says on here. So I'm just gonna roll with it. It looks like it almost like tense up a little bit near the first 2 toes. The third one is Roman. It looks like the first 3 toes are the same height. Then the one next to it is called African, which is hilarious to me because these other ones are, I think, mostly countries. Well, Orient isn't. They Orient and African. It's like, that is so many different kinds of people that I think you know where I'm going with this, but well, let's keep going on. So African, it says first 2 toes are about the same height. The next one is Greek, and it has a really long second toe. Aboriginal is really long second and third toe. German looks like a little house with that big toe and then straight across. Norwegian has 2 sets of stair steps, it looks like. The Celtic foot, I don't think is a human foot. I don't know what they drew with this one. It looks like anything goes with the Celtic foot. And Mongolian looks very similar to the Egyptian one. I'm not totally sure what's different about it, but it looks very similar. So at this point, I hope that you have taken off your sock and have checked your feet, and you will let me know, according to this chart that may be bunk, what shape your foot is. So there are some things that can be helpful to trace ancestry. Feet are not one of them, but I do feel like it warrants this interesting thing of like, why are these myths possible? I think what's interesting to me is that this has gone viral a couple times. Like, I've seen it around for years, and it's people who don't really seem like they're engaged with their ancestry or their family story, but I think it just goes to show you how like naturally curious we are about who we really are, where we come from, that there is this innate curiosity. And this is kind of like the pop genealogy, so to speak, you know, of like, well, if I can just look at my foot, I don't have to do any of the work, which would be great. I'm a little ambivalent about showing my feet on camera. I've always been really sensitive about my feet because they're so flat. Like I've had, I mean, my whole life, it's not like I have fallen arches or something. I've literally had people like gasp when they're like, oh, how are you walking? I don't know. And I don't wear anything special. I like to be barefoot, to be honest. Like, I don't really like shoes. I like to wear shoes that are totally flat when I wear shoes. And again, I was researching a little bit. It doesn't look like having flat feet means anything either. These are just genetic predispositions that kind of cross all cultural, ethnic, racial barriers, right? And I think this is great to just have a lighthearted conversation about these other indicators for heritage that people can go to. I've had some real stupid comments on my channel about me having curly hair. And, you know, I do have a mixed background, but I know people who they are straight up, these are Irish girls. I mean, these girls are Irish. Even though I have Irish heritage, like these are Irish girls, and their hair is even curlier than mine. And so there's nothing that you can really point to like this only belongs to this group. And I think it's fun to look and say, do we share features with ancestors? Do we share, you know, features maybe with a group of people? But at the end of the day, we are so much more similar than dissimilar. It is basically impossible to do it this way. So, you know, certain facial features, personality traits, things like that. Now there is like the Mongolian birthmark. That's a real thing. I'm not going to put pictures up on the screen because I don't need to get flagged again. You can look that up on your own device. But basically there's a birthmark that certain groups are prone to getting as babies, and then it kind of disappears over time. So there are certain things that you can look to and say, yes, definitely. But the shape of your feet doesn't seem to be one. Now, if I had to pick a foot, okay, maybe I'll just look. I'm gonna look privately. Like, I'm not gonna put the camera on. I'm just gonna look, assuming you need to stand totally straight. Okay. I would say, oh, it's pretty obvious, I guess. Okay. Okay, I would say that mine, the first two toes are the same height, and then the rest around. So according to this, I'm African. According to my dad, I'm Roman. So Dad, if you're watching, I acknowledge you. But it is interesting. And I think that it's a great opportunity maybe for people to get into learning more about their family. If this is the open door to that, I think that's fine. It's fine. It reminds me a little bit about when I was a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s. People were really into horoscopes. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. I wasn't allowed to do horoscopes. And I don't care about it anyway. But this feels a little bit like that, you know, where you're like, okay, you have so many people born at the same time, and is it really likely that they all have the same thing happening, you know, this week on Friday? Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's how this reads to me a little bit. I do think it's interesting, and I bet there are some underlying things that are familiar to certain groups. I do believe that is true. But as far as being able to use one of these to tell what kind of feet you have, unfortunately, I don't think foot shape reveals very much, but I do think it does highlight this desire to connect to something beyond ourselves. And I think that's a great sign. I'm always excited about stuff like that. So let me know what your foot shape was like compared to this and how you actually identify. I'd love to see if, and can we talk about the Celtic foot? I'm like, are people walking around which is like, this just seems so uncomfortable, and I feel like this can't be real. I am so curious. I don't have any room to speak though, because my feet don't look that cute. But let me know. Love to hear what you think. And thank you so much for being with me. If you'd like to check out the video about shovel teeth, which I actually do think point to some of your origin story, possibly, I will leave a link to that below. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.
Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.